And we are live. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Magic Hour with Anna Stone.
Hello.
And Stephanie Siren. And tonight we're having a Halloween special. It's our haunting special. So we're having our special guest, Lori Brown, who's going to share with us her story of the haunting.
The echo is really bad.
Our echo is really bad.
And I can barely hear Lori at all. Just FYI.
Uh-oh.
Yeah. Okay. Let's see what we can do here with that.
Deal with technical difficulties.
So somebody, if you guys are in the same house, someone needs to turn their microphone
off.
Oh, you're not. Okay.
No. It's definitely the usual technical difficulties that happen when we deal with having psychics on.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. How do we get it's on your end? I'm hearing it on your end too, Stephanie.
On mine too? Okay, so I'm gonna mute me real quick and you guys test.
Okay.
Okay.
I don't hear it now at all.
Oh,
yeah, I can.
Hear you. Neither one of you are echoing, so
I can hear the echo still.
Oh darn.
I don't know why. Let's see. I'll go ahead. You guys talk. I'm gonna do something on the back end over here. Okay.
Okay. So Anna's gonna mess with our sound. Thank you everyone who's tuning in and being so patient with us. As usual, in the month of October, when you get 3 psychics on a show, you're gonna have some tech issues. So let's see if we can't figure out that echo issue.
Echo cancellation must be off. No, I have. Is the echo cancellation on yours? If you go into settings on yours, check and see if you go to settings and then audio, make sure both of you have echo cancellation on, please.
I will look right now.
Thank you. Happy Halloween. Anaya. Oh, I think that's how you say your name. Sorry if that's wrong.
Edit mic settings. We've got echo cancellation on.
Okay.
Her mic volume is down though.
Whose?
Lori's.
Okay.
No.
Okay, is that better?
No.
I got it turned all the way up. Can you hear me?
Yes.
That would be yeah.
Okay, good.
Ooh. Okay.
Yeah, I'm not quite sure what's going on here with our echo.
I'm gonna dip out and then I'll come back and see maybe if we all went live together at the same time. Maybe that's why. You know what I mean? Like I'll leave and I'll come back. Okay, and see if that helps.
All right.
Okay, I'll be right back.
And while Anna's doing that, I'll just tell everybody that we're not psycho. We decided to dress up.
Yep, it's Halloween.
And Anna's supposed to be the Morrigan, and I am actually a female Baphomet, but I didn't put my nose on.
It's cute.
Okay, you guys try it now.
Okay,
I still hear it. Okay,
you still hear it?
Yeah. When I got in, I heard it right away.
Okay, let's try. I'll go out and go back in.
Okay.
Sorry to anybody who's tuning in with us. Give us just a minute.
Just a minute. We don't know this stuff until we're actually live.
Yeah,
so
we're struggling here.
It's okay. No, it's just text. You know, no big deal. I can still hear it though. So it's not Stephanie. Okay, so
there we go. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So yes, we're excited to have you here, Lori, and to tell your story about your haunting. I can't wait.
I'm excited to be here. It's very rare that I tell this story. I don't usually do that.
Yeah, I mean,
just because the more I talk about it, you know,
yeah,
I always feel like I'm waking up a sleeping monster, and I'm very hyper vigilant on my boundaries and my protection because it's not, you know, it started with this house that the kids and I call the Michigan house, but it actually wasn't just the house that haunted. It was our family that was haunted.
Yeah.
So it followed us around, and I have had some really bone chilling experiences throughout the years, and some amazing, some amazing ones.
Yeah, the hauntings are. So that's what we're talking about tonight, right, Stephanie? Like, okay, so we do think there's people in the audience that are saying it's Lori's mic who's doing it. So I'm not sure.
Okay. So here's what we're gonna do, Lori, Mom. I'm gonna have you mute your mic when you're not talking.
Yeah.
Okay.
We can do it over on our end too. We can do it.
Yeah, we can actually do it on our end too.
Yeah, I got it. Okay.
Okay. So what we'll do is, Lori, when you're talking, we'll unmute you so that we don't have the echo that's going on. And then for our psychic round of questions at the end, if somebody has questions for Lori as far as what she experienced and what she shares with us tonight, then we'll unmute her so she can answer you guys, and we'll be doing that segment tonight as well. So hello, everyone, and we're so excited that you're all here, and thank you for helping us with trying to figure out our tech issues.
Sorry. Yeah.
And thank you. Love the costumes. Thank you. That was Anna's idea.
That's freaking Samhain, Halloween coming up in just like 3 days. And we're not going to do another show before then. So hello, I got this costume. I'm not just going to sit in my house. No.
Exactly. So tonight we are talking about what, Anna? We were talking about hauntings, right?
That's correct. Hauntings.
And that's why we have Lori on. So what is a haunting? What makes something a haunting?
So, I mean, if you're talking about, well, there's difference. I think there's living in a haunted house, right? Is that's where you come into an environment that already has an entity attached to it. Typically, it's a person that was attached to that property, or like the house itself, or the property that the house is on. And they're usually benign. Like typically they scare you, maybe, but like they're not gonna hurt you, mostly. But then the haunting, I think, is different. A haunting is when you're like a person is haunted, like or a family. And for whatever reason, there could be many reasons, I believe, for that. It could extend from a past life, I guess. I'm sure, and it could also be because someone made some kind of deal or somebody hexed you. I don't know, but I, unfortunately, know all about this too well. So, at some point, if every house you live in is haunted, it becomes the issue of like, okay,
it's you.
You can't possibly always pick the haunted house, right? So yeah, and then how do you get rid of that? Like, what do you do about it? And then sometimes, like in my case, I think that it's just become so normal that I don't necessarily want to get rid of it, because I feel like it's maybe protective a little bit, even if it's a bad thing. Like even if it's a less than high vibrational being, it's still like attached and still can protect you from other lower vibrational things, I think. Like, because it's like, no, you can't mess with her because she's mine. To mess with
it depends on the deity, I believe. True. I mean, I agree with you at some point, but there's also poltergeist activity and there's also demonic activity.
Well, poltergeist activity, though, like so far we think is a PK, right? Psychokinesis is where we have like energy in us that is stored and it gets out and bursts, and it typically happens around people that have cognitive developmental issues. That's a big one because they're unable to express themselves properly. Teenagers,
teenagers are a big one.
Hormonal, like just, the things that happen in life. And I don't really think that's supernatural as much as it is just a phenomenon of biology. Because we can measure that in the lab more so than any other type of paranormal experience, right? But then like demonic is that's a whole other thing. Because there's the stages. There's oppression, right? There's like, because before you're possessed, like it doesn't start off being possessed. It starts off as being a haunting, and then it goes to oppression, right? And infiltration, and then possession. So there's like stages of that. But people ignore that most of the time, I think, because they want to admit it, right?
Right. Well, or people don't want to admit the things that maybe have led to why this is happening to them. Now, sometimes you can be in the wrong place at the wrong time and get an attachment as well, but you still have it. And now what do you do? So a lot of these things are touching on Lori's story. So I'd like to get into her sharing with us what was the catalyst, what happened to start this whole ordeal that her family went through.
Right.
And so I think it's also pertinent for us to say that Lori's family is also gifted. They also have psychic gifts. And so usually this kind of stuff happens more to us gifted people than not.
Right. Well, do you want me to just begin? Just jump in?
Absolutely.
Let me turn up the mic a little bit. Let me turn up.
This whole thing started with a double homicide that happened next door to me. My kids were really little, like 8 years, 6 years, and under. And there was a neighbor that moved in next door, and he was hiding. He was a high level gang member, and he was hiding in our condo complex. And so they found him. And I guess he had one of our best friends was the homicide detective that was assigned to this case. So basically, I'm on the phone with my mom. All of my children are upstairs in their rooms asleep. And all of a sudden, I hear my neighbor's door just explode where they kicked it in. And then I hear the pounding up the stairs as they chase, my neighbor. And they murdered his girlfriend and they murdered him. Bullets just started flying. And I was belly crawling up the stairs to get to the kids to make sure they were okay, because especially my older daughter Megan's bedroom, the wall was attached to my neighbor's, and that is where the shooting happened. So there were bullets that went out of the apartment, across the street, into garages, and I'm searching for bullet holes. My kids slept all the way through it. I cannot believe that, but they did. So I'm on the phone with the police department, and I call for help, and I go outside. I'm waiting for the police. I actually saw the getaway car and the killers leaving, and it was a gang hit. And I'm standing in my front yard, and I'm waiting for the police, and I hear this drip, 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 and I'm like, where is that coming from? I look down, and my foot is literally maybe 6 inches from a huge puddle of blood. And so I look straight up, and my neighbor is hanging half out his bedroom window and half in. And that's why he was dripping, is because they just filled him full of bullets. The next morning, my whole apartment, outside of my apartment, they were banging on my door. The press was there. So I had to deal with the media, and I had very little kids. I couldn't let them go outside and play. And I didn't want to make myself a target, since I was a witness. And the media didn't agree with that. They just plastered it all over. They showed my car, they showed my apartment address, they showed everything. And so in 30 days, my husband and I moved. We moved into this little house on Michigan Street, and we called it the Michigan House. And it was shortly after that we started having experiences. I really do believe that the double homicide was a catalyst for this specific type of entity attaching itself to my family. And the journey that we took. I was a very young mother, and and the demonic activity actually only stopped about 5 or 6 years ago. So just to it started with my youngest, Caitlin. Caitlin was one of these really unusual babies. You could lay her down in her crib awake, kiss her, hand her her bottle. I would sing her a lullaby, and she would just roll over on her own and go to sleep. And she was always, even at nap time, it was just that easy. When we moved into the house, a couple months after we moved in, Caitlin started having sleep disturbances. She would not want to go down, cry when she had to go down for a nap, cry when she went to bed. She would wake up in the middle of the night screaming. I would hear her scream, "Stop it, don't," and she would just be hysterical and let out these blood curdling screams. And we didn't know what was going on. One evening, my husband brings home paperwork from his office, and he's staying up late and doing paperwork, and the kids and I are in bed asleep, and he heard voices at the end of our hallway. The 3 bedrooms were right there across from each other into that hallway, and he could hear multiple people talking. So he gets up to go check it out, and when he goes to check it out, he goes to walk into my daughter Caitlin's bedroom, and it wouldn't let him in. The entity would not let him in the room. So he tried to get into me, and that's when the battle really began. It really, really did not want me to wake up. So I wake up, and my husband tells me what's going on, and I get up and I go into my daughter's room. The minute I cross the threshold, it was electric. It felt like when you have your foot fall asleep and then it tingles really bad and you're like, ah, you know what I mean? It was that strong, but it was the whole room.
Mm-hmm.
And so I take Caitlin out. I know that there's something there, but so I take Caitlin out, and she sleeps with me that night. And the next night, or the next morning, I called our church. At that time, I had been raised Mormon, and so it was before I got into alternative beliefs and kind of explored and expanded my own knowledge, all based off of this particular experience. And it was me trying to gain any knowledge I could to keep myself and my kids safe. So they come over. The missionaries come over to the house. They bless the house, and they give each of us a blessing. When they get to my daughter, Caitlin's only 2 years old, she is screaming hysterically. She's thrashing physically through the entire blessing. When it was over, I hold her in my arms, and I'm rocking her, trying to calm her. She starts vomiting. So it was evident from the very beginning that Caitlin was the real attraction. It never really bothered Brett and Megan, even though they saw shadows and heard voices and different things like that, but they didn't have the physical attacks and the one-on-one combat kind of that went on in my house. And this went on for 6 to 8 months. We cast it out over and over and over again, and it just kept coming back. At one point, the missionaries bring an elder priesthood holder from the church, and it followed him home and scared the bejeebas out of him and his family, and he never wanted to come back to my house again. They ended up, I know. They ended up bringing another man who was a sensitive, and he was very completely unafraid. And the first night that he was sitting there, a mylar balloon floated from the other room. It wasn't even in the same room as us. It floated from the other room into the living room and came towards this guy. I felt like I had this impression that the string on that balloon was going to go around this man's neck. and he
Mhm.
snatched it out of the air just as it got right in front of his face. He snatches the balloon out of the air and pops it. And that was introduction 101 to Lori's house. And I actually became friends with him, and he was a great source of comfort throughout, the whole experience. Um, it happened during the day. It happened at night. It was worse at night, of course, and it happened every night, but it didn't seem to matter. Um, I had it
So,
would it go ahead.
oh, I was going to ask how long did this kind of activity happen? Was it the whole time you were at the Michigan house?
Yes.
Okay. And how long was
Finally,
it?
it took about 6 to 8 months while we were in the Michigan house for things to calm down. Finally, things started calming down, and we moved. Um,
Mhm.
my I collect children.
Yes, you do.
I had
I'm one of
I
hers.
do. I am the old woman in the shoe. I had a foster daughter, I guess, or adopted daughter, you could call her. um, I found her at like 11, 12 years old, and she just kind of attached and became part of my family and lived with me until she was 18. She would go home on weekends and visit her mom and brothers and what have you. But she was standing at the kitchen doing dinner dishes. And what she saw was a man outside the window, because there was a corner window right at the sink. So you could see the front yard, you could see the porch. This man was standing outside the glass staring at her. And she came to me and said, the man with the yellow eyes is here. And um, and then, I, of course, later learned that this had followed her from the time that she was about 5 years old. Her brothers uh, played around with black magic, and she started having experiences about 5 years old. So this was nothing new to her, even though we had never really talked about it before. But there wasn't really any incidents that was raised to bring that subject up until we started having problems at the Michigan house. And so that's when I learned about the man with the yellow eyes, who was uh, I would later find out a very high level demonic prince of hell. And I wondered why something that strong for my little family, you know? Um, it came with an entourage of 3 or 4 spirits or entities. One was a female with an English accent. Um, and this little group followed my family from location to location, and we battled it on multiple levels throughout uh, our life. um, I had people come over, and my sister came over. She didn't believe me about the activity that was going on, and she was sitting at the coffee table, or not coffee table, but we were at the kitchen table having coffee and just talking, and it took its hand and ran it straight up her spine. And I guess it just freaked her out. She got up and she was gone. She just left my house. Scared her to death. Um, One time, uh, it was originating. It was really weird. It was originating from my little girl's closet. And
Yes, they like to hide in
they love
shadows.
that. Yeah, they like to hide. There were times that the missionaries would come over, because the missionaries would come over, they would do a blessing, they would cast it out of the house, and you couldn't feel it anymore, but it would come back. It always came back. So this became a regular thing on a weekly basis. You know, these poor missionaries always at my house. There were times that they spent the night and sat in the living room. I made pallets on the floor for me and Caitlin, and they sat in the living room and guarded us literally so that we could try to sleep. Um, and one time, my daughter started screaming, and I heard her from the, you know, from the kitchen, and I came down this long hallway that we had. I came down the hallway, and here comes my little 2-year-old bursting out of her bedroom, and she is running. And she ran straight for me. I knelt down and I caught her in my arms and just pulled her into my chest. And at that moment, the entity went whoosh and passed straight through both of us. It's hard to describe what that felt like, but you could feel the energy just push through you.
As someone who's been dealt with possession, I know exactly what that feels like. And it feels like you're not even paper thin. You're just like transparent. They can just like move right through you.
Yeah. I felt invisible. It just went straight through us. It was, you know, it was crazy. It would, I would get up and I would take Caitlin and put her in my bed at night to, to protect her and help her sleep. And one night specifically, she was crying and screaming, and she would talk to it. She would scream at it, you know, stop it, don't, that kind of stuff. And so I am laying in bed with my baby in my arms, and I've got my fingers locked together so that I can hold on as tight as I can. And it stood in my bedroom doorway, beckoning to her to come to it. And at one point, she started to get up. She leaned up. She was going to go to it. And I pulled her back into my chest and said, "No, honey, you don't go to it. When it calls you, you don't go." And it came to the side of my bed and grabbed my hands and tried to pry my hands off of my baby. Um, so it, you know, when it didn't work, of course, I'm praying and I'm casting it out. And when it didn't work, it was so angry that it shook my whole bed. And it was like, you ever been in one of those old motels that you could throw the quarters in the bed and the whole bed shakes? It's supposed to be a massage, but it's just a shaking mattress. That's what it was like. It just shook the whole bed, and I could feel its rage and its hate. And I became so connected to this thing that I could sense and feel its emotions. Um, Sometimes it would cloak itself, and I would call the missionaries to come in, and they would come in and they couldn't find it.
What do you mean by cloak? Was it shape shifting or was it covering itself?
Covering itself. The missionaries, this one missionary he was the sweetest guy. He was a Hawaiian guy, and he was a sensitive. And so he kind of knew, he guided me and taught me a lot. And so, but it would hide from them, and they would come in and go, "Well, we can't feel it." And I'm going, "It's here." And so I would go room to room and find it. Sometimes I opened a closet or a cupboard, and I would, you know, run my hand through there and go, "Uh-huh, there you are." And that made it very angry. It hated me. I've never in my life felt that kind of hate and rage, and um you know, it just craved, I guess is the word. um it was unreal. And it started attacking me because I was standing in between, you know, my daughter and it. and my daughter was what it wanted. It is like it wants to pollute the purity and innocence of littles.
There's those out there. Yes,
Yes,
absolutely.
yes. And Caitlin is a sensitive as well. So, you know, she doesn't remember any of this, thank God. Because it would be, it's terrifying. It's really terrifying. And so I began this journey. My marriage fell apart in the middle of dealing with all of this. My husband moved out, and I was alone with my babies and this thing. And that's when I was just exhausted. I didn't sleep. I was up all night, every single night, dealing with this, you know, and the kids were so little. I was up during the day. I couldn't nap, you know. So I just became very overtired, very emotional. I was terrified. And this very special missionary from Hawaii pulled me into Caitlin's bedroom and sat me down and explained to me what a mother's calling really is. And the spiritual, you know, characteristics of that calling. And he said, you may not be you may not be a priesthood holder or, you know, a reverend or whatever, but as a mother, you have the right to call upon the powers of heaven to protect you, because you're not wielding that power. You're calling on it, invoking it, I guess.
Yeah, invocation.
And so he told me, don't cry. Stop the fear right now, because they eat fear like crack, and it makes them stronger. And the more scared you are, the bigger it's going to be. And so that was a real turning. That shifted me a little bit into fight mode. You know, instead of just surviving all of the craziness that was going on around me, it kind of shifted. And there was one time I decorated Caitlin's bedroom in Barney. God help me. She loved Barney. So she had the Barney bedspread and everything. Well, she had this huge poster of Barney over her bed, and it was in this plastic, you know, box frame. And I went in there. I went into the room, and I bore my testimony. And I explained to it that it was not going to win. I explained to it that it could not separate me from my creators, that love and loyalty and service would always be there, no matter what it did to my family. And it was so angry. It shook that picture violently, and the picture fell down off the wall and broke right in front of me. And those were things that, you know, those are everyday occurrences. I started to control my fear. I started challenging it. I learned to cast it out. But it would always come back with increased activities. And so, you know, during that time, I kind of stepped into my own. Really, I had to. I didn't have a choice, really. What do you do when you're all alone with a bunch of toddlers and you're dealing with demonic?
Yeah.
They didn't have paranormal investigations back then in the early 90s.
Well, honestly, if you ask me, those shows, like a lot of them, not all of them, but a lot of them are definitely staged and planned, and those guys are weenies. But I think we could show them our thing or two. But definitely. So I muted you for a moment, Lori, just so I don't have echo. Anna, were there any questions we had for Lori about this so far? Because I know I do.
No, I don't see any in the chat yet. I don't see any, but I see that Megan had said she remembers waking up and hearing some of that conversation with the missionaries. Yeah, I mean, I guess like I have a question like about your daughter Caitlin. Like, what is she doing now? Like, how is she? She's psychic. Is she like what is her deal? Like, she doesn't remember.
She doesn't remember. Sorry, she doesn't remember, and I kind of shut her down. Caitlin's very empathic, but whether or not I have some kids that are mediums as well, I don't know the extent of what Caitlin's gifts are because it's not going to wake up until she becomes a mother.
Was that because you kind of shut her down and intuitively made that decree, or was it something more like that's connected?
I kind of shut her down to protect her, and it wasn't like it's hard to describe because it's not like I did this ritual to cut off her ability. I just kind of cocooned her myself and figured when she's strong enough, these gifts will awaken and she will be able to, but until then, she had to be protected because it was actually trying to attach to possess with Caitlin. It wanted Caitlin.
Mm-hmm.
And so that was the battleground. The knowledge of motherhood with my daughter came to me much later. And that was something that I actually channeled, was that I realized that, because I was worried about it. I was stressing about it. And so what I received was when she gives birth, that's what's going to change. That's what's going to be the change. And so all of those things, all of those empathic, intuitive gifts, whatever they are going to wake up within her so that she can exercise her right as a mother. Really, it's a very, very sacred calling.
Okay, so I'm going to mute you for a second. So that makes complete sense. And I get it because your family has a lot of sacred mother energy. So for those of you who don't know her family, they do. They have a lot of sacred mother energy, and it's a very matriarchal line. So that makes perfect sense. I wanted to share this in our chat because I see that Shannon had also experienced an angry but she has an angry male ghost, and she's saying that it was in a rented home and it had been sucking her energy. When she came back from a mega spirit awakening trip, he made himself known, began whispering, then yelling, "Who the hell do you think you are?" He didn't back down or leave until I confidently answered with my full name, followed by, "I live here in the love and light." Then he was gone, and things became easier in my life. Yeah, like let me unmute you, Mom. Okay. And then
Absolutely. Like I said, I don't know. I've dealt with icy spirits, and I've dealt with a lot of that, but I've never dealt with anything. This was other. This was a whole other category that we were dealing with. I used to go spend the night with my daughter-in-law's mother, and I are very close. And I would go spend the night, and I would sleep in a recliner in the living room and wake up in the middle of the night to a man and a woman standing about over me, and they would just stare at me like I was the most curious thing they'd ever seen. And but I never felt threatened. This was very threatening. This was full of hate and power. And and it was actually coming, I learned from my adopted daughter, Chrissy. It came from her house. The missionaries and I had this bright idea that we would go to Christina's mother's and offer a blessing for their house. We were trying to maybe stop it where it was coming through. And they didn't want the blessing, which was fine, but we did go in and sit down and talk with them. Their cat jumps up in my lap and it's staring at me intently. I mean, eye to eye contact, very intent, and did not blink and did not, turn away, which was kind of odd for an animal. When you look them straight in the eye, they usually will avert their eyes at one point. And this cat did not. And what I saw, it was spooky. The eyes of this cat changed. And it looked as if it looked as if I was just looking into mirror after mirror after mirror. It went very deep, kind of, that's a hard one to put into words, but it just was hollowed. And I felt this cat and I looked into the eyes and I immediately knew what I was dealing with. And I looked this cat silly, that it feels silly now, but I looked this cat straight in the eyes and I said, I know who you are. You can't hide from me. And the cat hissed at me and jumped off my lap and took off running. So
that's not crazy at all.
It's just, I didn't know that the elders explained to me later on. I didn't know that that they can do that with animals. The entities can do that with animals, but they're, none of this was book knowledge. This was all experience and learning it as I go. It started, it followed us around. We eventually moved from the Michigan house, and there were periods of control, periods of calm where it would get quiet for a while and then something would happen. And I ended up, many years later, Caitlin is 10 to 12 years old now. And she goes to LA and she's visiting her dad in LA. And he calls me and he is crying. He is freaking out. He knows what this is because he went through the first half of this in the Michigan house with me. So he knew it was real, but it was there. And Caitlin was sound asleep, unaffected, unbothered, never knew the difference, but it tormented my ex-husband. And he could hear the woman with the English accent talking. And he was just like, oh my God, how do we get rid of it? How do I, and he was just terrified, and rightly so. I don't know anybody that came into our life that dealt with this or experienced this in some form with us that was not completely terrified by it. But that's the catch. The fear, they feed on that fear. Literally, they feed on that fear. And so the more you panic, the more you cry, the more you freak out, the worse it's going to get. I, at that point, lost a lot of my fear. I kind of stepped into my own as a daughter of God, and started dealing with it in a different way and dropped the fear. That's when I was able to gain a little bit more control and gain, a little bit more peace, because it's not chasing me around anymore, in the house. I mean, there's incidences that happened. I had, I began at that point. That's when I kind of started exploring alternative, belief systems and spirit, all different spiritual. I believe that all spirituality leads us home. It doesn't matter what religion you are, there's truth in all, is where I ended up coming out of this. And so, you know, I had some amazing experiences with angels as well. Something not surprising that something that big and that evil would attract angels to counteract what was happening, especially since I was just begging for help. And my niece, go ahead. Oh, my niece Kristen calls me, and she is freaking out because her daughter, which is a little toddler, is experiencing this stuff. They ended up moving to Fresno, and they moved in with me for about a month, and that's how he got back in my house, because he was attached to their little girl. So now I have my daughter Megan and my grandson Liam, who's not even 2 yet, living with me. And when my niece and her husband left and got their own house, the entity stayed. So then Liam began having experiences with sleep disturbances, and we would put him down for a nap and shut the door, and he would climb out of bed and he would knock on the door to be let out. And we used to laugh, and we thought it was so cute. He's like, knock, knock, I'm awake now, Well, it started mimicking Liam and his knocks. So, you would go to the door and Liam wasn't there. But you could, even if Megan and Liam were gone, they weren't home, it would knock. Liam's little knock, knock, knock on the door. And during the time that my niece was staying with me, she came and woke me up. And she said, it's here. They were sleeping in my living room on an air mattress. And she's like, Auntie, it's here. And so I get out of bed and I go into the living room, and she's telling me that it's throwing my Tupperware from the sink to the stove clear across the kitchen. I've got dishes flying across the kitchen. And I walk into the living room, and I walk up to a certain point, and I just felt it, and I stopped. And that's when I saw the shadow figure. It was a shadow people, and it was very tall and blacker than the blackest night. If you're in a dark room, you can still see it because it's blacker than black.
It's a void. Yeah.
Yes. And so, at this point, I'm not afraid anymore. I lost my fear, and so I confronted it and started casting it out, and told it, if you're going to throw my dishes around, you could at least wash them first. I mean, I was just very up with the finger at this thing, but I cast it out. It did leave my house, but we ended up having to have missionaries come back into my home. My daughter Megan at the time was really good friends with this pair of missionaries. One's name was Jacob, and they're still friends today. But we told Jacob what was happening, and told him about our family history. And he brought over 5 missionaries to our house, which is unheard of. And at this point in time, we're in a circle in the living room. Me and my daughter Megan and these missionaries, we're all in a circle in the living room. And I wrote the name of this demon on a piece of paper, which I had never done before. I'd never told anybody the name. But I wrote the name and I told them this time when you cast it, I want you to cast it out by name.
Has to be.
And so
Yeah, it has to be, doesn't it? It has to be. Like, I thought that the identification of the name is like paramount
I'm
to getting rid of it.
gonna mute you for a second, Mom, so we can talk about this for a sec. Yeah, it has to be cast out by name, correct, Anna? Like
Right.
also sigil, right? Or seal.
If that helps. But I mean, I'm not sure why. Like, I would love to know why the name is so important. But it does seem that in all different sections, you know, all different religions, that is one thing that's standard across the board, is that they have to know discernment is what they call it, is discernment. Like, so to discern the name gives you power over it. I'm not sure why that's the case. I don't know if anyone knows in the chat. Please inform me. But that's one thing I have not been able to uncover thus far, and I have been researching it lately. I actually have just been researching Osmodius, right? And that's the title of an office held. It's not the title of the actual entity itself. So FYI, it's the office held of that, the king of the demons, right? And that's, so there's many of them. There've been many, but that's one of the things that I, even in researching that and through academia and old texts, religious texts, like I can't find anything about why. And I just like to know why. Just for funsies, I'd like to know why that matters so much. You know, but yeah, it does seem like that's a thing. And Lori, I do know what you mean about the like fear. It's different when it's not you. It's different when it's your kids. Because this shit scared me. Like, you know, I see ghosts in my house, whatever, spirits, I don't know, like whatever you want to call it. All the time it scared me. It doesn't it startles me because I don't expect it to happen. But I had an experience recently, not too long ago, 2017, when my ex-husband went insane, literally insane, and had to be locked in a hospital. He was talking to something, and I could hear him talking. I could hear the other voice talking back to him, and I would go, and there'd be nothing there. Like, I would be like, "Who the hell is he talking to?" And nobody. And I would hear it talk over him. Like, he would be talking, and it would talk on top of him, and there was nobody there. So I was like, it was not him just making funny voices, like, because he couldn't do that, right?
No.
But when he left, it started in with me and my daughter. I thought he was just crazy, you know. I was having experiences, but then it started in, and it actually attacked my daughter. Actually, threw her on the ground. Like, it was not. It was really scary. She was running through the kitchen and in like a circle, and all of a sudden, I just heard this slam sound, and I knew instantly that something was very wrong. And I turned and I looked, and she was laid flat out on the ground in the opposite direction she had been running. And I had guests over, and the worst part was, like, I went and picked her up. I just knew I knew something was very wrong. I don't know how I just knew, but I did. She was running. She could have fallen. You know, that's normal. Kids fall. This was different. She was frozen with fear, like stiff as a board. She was hyperventilating. And I picked her up and I took her to the bedroom, and all of the lights in the house started flashing. Like, at that moment, just all of the lights started going crazy. And this guy that was with my friend Maggie came into my room, and he goes, "That was some demonic shit." And he didn't even see what happened. He was in another room, and he came and said that. And I was like, "Why did you just say that?" You know, and then there was this horrible noise that started happening that was like, ouch, like it hurt my head. Like, it felt like you're underwater, like this pressure that came over. I don't know even how to describe it. But at that moment, I was like, "Oh no, you did not just fuck with my kid." Like, oh my God. Like, there was no fear at that moment. Like, if that hadn't happened, I would have been terrified. But like, because it was my daughter, my little innocent, tiny little cute daughter, like, no, that's not happening. You know, and I was able to hang on, like, let me unmute you. I was able to like actually get it to leave, but it took a month of that. But it was, and I had her leave. We had her leave because I didn't want her to be traumatized by that any further. She doesn't have memory of it either. But yeah, it was pretty bad.
There's a warrior that comes out of you when something like this happens to your baby.
Yeah.
It's, you know, and I used to say I really truly lost fear, because I knew what I was dealing with, and I knew who I was dealing with, which made it even harder because I looked it up to find, you know, to get, and when I looked it up, I actually Googled it. And when I Googled the information and realized that attached the persona to the name, I knew who I was dealing with, and why there were so many multiples that came with it.
Right.
Right, because it's a legion.
Well,
It's a
that's also
legion,
legion, right?
yes.
But I just wonder.
Yes, he was.
I wonder about this. Like, is it like it can't just be the one? I mean, like, so are you saying when this happens, is it just us or you or that person that's happening to in the entire world, or are there multiple versions of that same thing doing it all across the place, like all over the place? Like,
Oh, that's a good. You mean like bilocation or omnipresence? Is that what
right? I
you're?
mean, because like if it's like singling you, then what the hell? Like, why? Like, they're so you know, like they're like the shit, right? Like they're like the head of the thing, right? You know, like why would they?
Right.
Like, so it's hard for me to think that it would just be one. Like, there might be carbon copy, you know, like
I know what you're
it,
saying.
whatever.
I think it's legion. With each one, there are it's a collective.
Mhm.
Just like when we talk about soul groups, right? Same idea.
Well, it wouldn't it be like again, because I found out after doing a lot of research on this Osmodius, right, that it's a title of office held. So that name means the role, but that's not the name of the actual individual entity.
Right,
According to a
right.
lot of the, not according to everybody.
It's like a Decepticon. Let's put it that way, like Transformers.
Okay.
So many pieces make up the thing.
Right. So could it be like they're just it's a role? Like, here's the role of this office, and then you're playing this part. Like,
Yes.
so you're gonna be,
Yes,
so there's
yes.
whatever the individual things are not
Like,
that
okay,
name.
let's use this as an example. You remember who's watched The Conjuring 2, the one with the nun in it, with Valak.
Yeah.
He is a Duke of Hell,
Mhm.
but there are plenty of him, and they say we are many, and it comes in different forms, and one of its forms is that, another one is it's like a head on some goat legs. Like, it just depends on what form it decides to take.
Yeah.
And I like what Scotty said here. He goes, it has to be by name because it is a contract.
What's the contract? What does it mean?
The name, like casting out by name, like it's a contract that they made, like name is power kind of thing. Which is interesting.
Between the people that decast out and the forces themselves have made a deal. That's the rules of the rules of engagement, basically. Is that, I mean, like, when did I have so many questions, you know, like, well, when did we do that? Like, when did that become a thing?
Right.
You know, I guess this would be before we got punished for being jerks and, like, you know, not taking divine knowledge like serious, like when they used to actually come and share it with us, like in real time. And then started killing them all instead or something, like whatever we do.
Right.
Humans are dumb. I don't know. Nope. No, thank you. What? What do you think? No, thank you. What? What do you mean? What? What are you talking about? Clarify. I'm curious.
I'm totally in Halloween form here, you guys. I'm eating taffy while we're talking. Just so y'all know.
I don't have candy.
And I'm drinking Coke and you know.
Oh my god! You opened your soda can earlier. It was so loud in the microphone. It like literally gave me an electric jolt. Like, I was like, oh my god. So loud.
It's ASMR. No.
Yeah. Yes, Anton. I mean, I'm just wondering, like, what? Like, it can't just be that they single out one person at a time, right? I mean, they could, I guess. I mean, but like, that doesn't seem efficient. You know, it doesn't seem very efficient.
We're talking about efficiency with demonic powers. That's hilarious.
I don't know. I mean, I would think that they would want to get as many as they can. If that's what they feed off of, right? Like, so sticking with just one would be not the most efficient. That would be like you know, like an archaic organism compared to one that's more efficient, right? I guess.
Right. But I mean, they're old, so I guess like it is archaic. Yeah. I'm kidding. Yeah. But Shannon says, now can you tell, how can you tell if someone is possessed or just severely mentally ill? My mother is insane and I don't know, she's got evil spirits in her. Oh, Shannon.
There's a couple ways. There's, well, clinically speaking, from a psychological perspective, there are criteria that has to be met in order for it to be ruled out as mental illness, right? So that is the first thing that the church will do, is rule out mental illness. And that has, you know, they go through a battery of psychological assessments, history of family. Do the person remember what they're doing? Like, typically people don't remember these things that are going on at all. Like, if they're possessed, they don't have memory of what they've done. They might have memory of an internal space during that time, but they don't have memory of the external, typically speaking, right? Like that, I'm not read any cases otherwise, actually. So I, you know,
they could tell you their stomach hurt at that moment, but they couldn't tell you like what was going on in the external world.
Right. Like I think they give, because when you're possessed, it gives you like some kind of false narrative that's going on in your life. I don't know. You know, like it's not, you're not seeing things clearly.
No, not at all. It's like you're under a spell.
Yeah. So she doesn't have any memory of her evil, but she passes the psych test. Well, that's, I mean, the psych tests are like, you know,
they're passable.
What they're doing. What are they doing? What psych tests are they taking?
I mean, look at me and Anna.
Yeah.
We pass psych tests.
Sure do. Sure do. Yes, this is true. And yeah, that's a good point, Stephanie.
Right. I mean, we're here in costumes talking about hauntings and evil demonic things. And, you know,
I'm a someone psychologist, you know.
I'm 45 years old. This is what I do with my life.
So yeah, like this is a 45, yes, 45, and I dress up in costume and talk about, you know, what mainstream society
and say I'm a witch
thinking, right? So but that's not true. Like, you know, it's the fact that we call things supernatural because we don't understand them. They're just outside of this of the ability for people to understand. So whenever we don't understand something, we attribute it to being bad or fake or evil, you know, some dumb thing. Like, instead of being curious about it, instead of like thinking, oh, there's other possibilities, we just like shut it off immediately and say no. And if you believe it, you're crazy, you know.
Right.
And instead we'll give you a ton of medication that doesn't have any efficacy whatsoever, any proof that it does anything other than cause additional side effects. But, you know, hey, it's money. Right. So, like, you know, there. And that's evil in of itself. So, like, evil's everywhere. Pervasive.
I mean, speaking from experience, I've been possessed a couple times because I am a channel.
Well, that's a different kind of possession, though. That's not the same. Like, you know, like, typically we're not, you know, like, but, I mean, it's that, like, yeah. But it's not like you're not, you know, spinning around, throwing up pea soup and like whatever. You know what I mean? Like scaring the crap out of your family. Like, you're giving messages.
This version, it's like, oh, she's got a deity using her. Okay, you know, like when Aida Wado used me for whatever was going on there. I'm not quite sure.
Right, but you were aware that it happened. You're aware that it happened. I don't think, and you had an option. You could have refused it. Like, you could have, it's been like, no, and you did. You kicked it out. Like, you can't do that here. Like, this is like, it seems like it's above the control of the individual.
Well, but see, I think I'm gonna go into a little tangent there because I think I'm above it, and I don't mean that in an egoic way or anything like that.
That's exactly what they look. That's exactly like the criteria that if you look at all the cases. The case studies, like the ones that come out of the, you know, that they released from Vatican or whatever, always it's like somebody that has problems. Like, it's always somebody that has like some kind of issue with self-esteem, with anything like that makes them less sure about themselves and their own agency. Their own personal agency is a big deal.
And I have agency because, like, as a channel, I've done this for many, many years. And the first time I ever felt anything like that was about 15 years old. And I can easily tell you when they step in. It's like I'm driving the car from the back seat and they kind of step in as a guest driver.
Yeah. It feels like you're walking underwater to me. Like, I'm just slow in movement. Like, my body's slow, like, to move anything. It's like I can still control it, but I'm aware that it's not primary. Like, there's another thing going on. Like, it's energies shared.
And for that possession, right? That possession that we just talked about with me. What I'm trying to say is that two things, okay? One, I realized it, and I think I realized it because I've dealt with it for so long, right? And number two, I induced vomiting immediately.
Yeah, there's something weird with that happens, because that's what happened when that black stuff came up. Remember? Like, same thing. Like, what is that about? Like, I'm, you know, throwing it up or purging. It's purging, right? That's what it is. We're purging it. But, like, it's interesting how that works. And that's across all cultures too. That purging phenomenon is a thing across all cultures.
Was instinctual. It was I did not like consult anybody. I did tell somebody near me who was taking care of me at the time, and this was before my mom and sister stepped in, thank goodness. But
yeah, thank Lord for that.
Yeah. But it was definitely, I said to him, I said, I need a medicine woman and I need it now. And because I knew what I was dealing with, and I knew that it was much bigger and much more ancient than anything I had ever encountered. And so I knew I needed that. And I just started inducing vomiting. I was like, I've got to put my hand down my throat and tell it, you're not welcome in here.
Yeah. So like, I think that that's important that we should tell that people too, that if you're watching this now or later, that's the thing is like when if this happens, which it probably won't happen to you, like, let's be honest, that the odds are in your favor that it won't, but you know, very much so. But in the event that it does, or anything at all, it doesn't have to be demonic, it could be anything that you just don't want around.
Exactly. I just didn't want it.
Yeah. It's like, I think that we are under the assumption that like we don't know what to do, so we're gonna seek counsel outside. At that point, I think that if anything comes into your mind about what you should do that thing that you think about, because there is an instinctual code that we have this ability that we just know things sometimes. We don't know how we know them. Nobody knows. Who cares? Doesn't matter.
Affirmation chills when you said that.
Yeah. It is a thing that it's passed on from our ancestors and from every person living on this planet that shares our genetic code, which is 99.9% of the same as every single person on this earth. It's the same. So it's only 0.1% difference. So like, that's all inherited like somewhere, and it's like it's kind of hidden away there. But like in moments like that, just like the adrenaline that will come on and give you the ability to lift a car off of a child if you need to, in those brief moments, the same thing applies here. It's like if you have the inkling to do a thing, like if that occurs in your home and you suddenly decide that you want to yell something out, like say some words, and you don't know where they came from, that's okay. That's not you being possessed. That's you doing what you need to do to get rid of it. Like I think that even though we deny it in the mainstream on the blanket level, like as being fantastical or phony or made up fantasy world, whatever, the fact that like every religion has the section that deals with this stuff, and that even psychology can admit that there's things that like science can admit that there's stuff that we just can't explain, that there's absolutely no reason to think that you wouldn't just inherently know what the hell to do. So instead of waiting to try to find the answer and go Googling shit, like just do whatever comes to your mind at that moment. I'm saying I think it will be the right thing to do because your instincts will take over. That's a reflex. That would be a reflex instinctual reaction from the limbic system of the brain. That is the old archaic brain that we've had since our inception. And that's the one that turns on the adrenaline. That's the one that turns on the fight or flight. That's the one that tells us what the hell we need to do when it's danger. So like, trust that, like go with your gut on that stuff. And that's like the best advice I can give. If anyone's experiencing anything scary like that, just say what the hell comes to your mind. Don't question it, where it came from. Like just do it. Cause it's like, that's your ancestor guiding your ass to safety, like serious. That's my 2 cents on that one. So thanks.
Oh, I agree wholeheartedly, because even with my magic mentees and, I teach them, listen to your gut, because your intuition is where the magic comes from. That's your magic. That's your signature. We all have an energetic signature, and it comes from within. It's not outside of you. It's not some tradition that you think seems cool. It's something inside of you that says your ancestors have done this for ages.
Right. And that's very important what you said, Stephanie, the signature. In magic, you were supposed to sign everything you do. Like you're supposed to leave your signature, whatever that is. If it's like a wax seal, if it's whatever, a sigil, you're supposed to leave everything on your work. And the same applies here. It's like if you go get some incantation from someone else, that's theirs. It's not yours. Like it's theirs. Right. It's not going to be as effective as if what comes from you inside.
Right.
Take it as a template.
Right. You can also use it as a template, like you just said. Like you can go and buy these oils from other practitioners, and you can go get supplies that are pre-done or pre-made. But then you go and you turn it into your own. You make your own incantation for it. You make your own recitation for it. You add your own oil you've made, or elixir, or extract, or hydrosol, whatever it may be.
Pee, your spit, it doesn't matter. Like something of you, like it has to come from you. Like so, and that's the thing, because your energy is what is. If it's something that's coming at you, it don't need your neighbor's energy to get rid of it. It needs your energy to get rid of it, because it's coming after you. It's personal. It is personal in this case. Like right?
Exactly. And what mom said was so true too, which was that, you know, when you feel your own power is when they don't have power against you. It's when you lose that fear that you're really able to control the energy around you.
Right. Yeah.
And that is a daily practice. And that is something that's learned. It's not something that you automatically know how to do.
No. It's been 45 years, you're still dealing with it. Trust me on this. But like,
But
you know,
definitely, I'm the person who now I get that because I'm the one who I am the most feared witch in my wood. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
You know, I everything better fear me because this is my abode.
Right.
You know?
Yeah, like in my house, like now, like it's like the spirits just startle me because I see them and I don't expect them to be there, right? They're not doing anything to me. They're just there and it's like, oh my God, there's someone in my house. Oh shit, oh no, they're not there. So it's like a moment I'm startled. You know, I get over it. But like when it's that shit, when they're doing stuff like throwing stuff around and like pulling at your hair or whatever, and you can't see where they're at, like like that's not cool. Like so I'm not about that. That's when I get pissed off. You know, now I'll get mad about that. But ghost, that's what I'm more scared of the ghost actually than I am of that stuff. Because that stuff just it's like I have an intruder in my fucking house. You book it in my house. This is my sanctuary. Get the fuck out. Like, and that's how it's gonna go. And you're gonna regret it, period. Like, I don't worry about it because I'm like, no, I know I'll be fine. But you can't always control what other people bring into your house, like Lori, how it would happen with Lori. Like, you can't control that. Like, sometimes there's people that are going to come with energies attached to them, and they could just ditch that person for you because they're like, oh shit, well, look at this, it's better over here.
There's a fountain of exactly what I want it's on tap. I'm gonna stay here. You know, especially when you see like I was trying to explain to somebody recently that magical folk like ourselves, you know, people who come from gifted families, we look different to spirit. We actually look different. We look like lighthouses. We look like beacons. Like we've got a big neon sign above us.
And it's not just us. It's not just us. I had that recently. I had that thing that happened where I got taken like in the middle of a reading. I got all of a sudden I just in an airplane with some guy. I guess it was my spirit guide, and he's showing me the houses in the city at night. And he was having me look out the window. He goes, "See that? Looking like every 100 house or so was lit a different way. Like all the houses were lit up. Like you know when you're in an airplane, you look down at the city lights. But this every like 100 houses or so, there was like houses that were lit a different way. There was like a glow around them, kind of like a bubble almost, like a light." And there's all these people lined up to get into that house. And that's when he was telling me that, like, when I don't show up the way I'm supposed to show up, it messes up the whole balance of everything because there's only a finite amount of people that can do this work. And, like, you know, and if you don't come correct with your practice, then you mess it up for not just the other people that help souls, but the souls themselves have to go find the other people that can help them. They've been waiting forever. But I saw in my mind, in this whatever vision I don't know what it was. I was awake, but it was like a daydream that happened randomly, sporadically out of nowhere. In the middle of reading, I saw that it was definitely noticeable, 100% noticeable, and it was subtle but not subtle. Like it was, like if I was seeing it through the eyes of a spirit, then it's 100% like there's no hiding. There's no hiding. Like they can see you all the time.
Like I've only seen what they've shown me. And we look like when we're walking about, we look bright. That's the best way I can describe it. Like there's this glow, like this one, right? It's called the shine, right? It's called the shine for a reason.
And it was, the light was like this weird yellowish, like warm golden hue tone that had like a shimmer or that like a metallic-y, like I can't really describe it with language that we have, right? But like it looked different, definitely different. And again, it looked. There's no way you can hide from it.
No.
Like
we had after we had the missionaries in the middle of the blessing when they called it by name, it attacked Megan, and it came up to her, and it's almost, you ever seen on TV where somebody gets grabbed by the collar and they're shaken?
Oh yes.
That's what it did to her, and it scared her so bad she bolted for the bathroom. But the interesting thing, this was what was fascinating me and to me, and so comforting as well, that in my experience, it was not only just the most evil, darkest dark, but it was also the purest light of light, because I had an angel, and it was huge, appear in the middle of my living room, in the middle of that. When they cast it out by name, it shook Megan and then out. And this huge angel appeared in my living room. And it was very, very big and very, very bright. And I could see it even though I sat in my chair with my head bowed and my eyes closed. I could see it. And when it appeared, it started at my feet. I felt the energy. It started at my toes and just rose right up my body. And after um after this was over, and I had the tingling, I had tingling sensations going on and all kinds of stuff. But after that was over, the missionaries, Jacob, which was the main guy that we were, he was the one that we were the closest to. He was just stunned, and he looked at the other missionaries, and he looks over at me and Megan, and he goes, I just want to say that was real. That really happened. And I said, an angel appeared in my living room. And he goes, there was more than one. And your living room was full of your ancestors. He said, Lori, you have a very, very strong family line.
Mm-hmm.
And I've often wondered, what you said, Anna, why me? of, of all the people that go through something like that, why me? But it continued to make appearances. And my doctor put me on disability in 2015. And I moved in with my mom. She was elderly and needed help. And so I moved in with her to take care of her. And it got real active in that environment. My mom was extremely depressed. She was battling addiction. She was very, very sick. And all of those things just invite it to stay because it's going to feed off of it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think the other thing, I think that they get you other ways too, though. Like when they can't get you, they'll go after other people that will then be in your life that wreak havoc on your life. They act through others too, right? Like I think that that's a common thing that most people, if they experience anything, it would be more like on that level, like where other people are trying to mess them up off their path, like and to wreak havoc in their lives. Seemingly like out of nowhere, like you have just people just trying to undermine you all the time. Provided you've ruled everything else out, like it's not you being the jerk, like you have to make sure. But it's hard because when you're saying this stuff, it's like, yeah, why us? Why? Because it sounds self-important. It does. It sounds a little narcissistic, right? Like if you tell people that, they're like, oh, it can come across, I always worry that that's how it sounds like, but at the end of the day, it's like, who wants this shit? I sure don't. No, I would much rather be able to sit here and say I have no clue what you're talking about. I would be
people think it's very cool to have spiritual gifts. What they don't understand is they come with a price. And I had when I was taken off of work, I moved in with my adoptive daughter Christina, and her son is a very, very strong medium. And we were sitting on the back patio, and we were sitting with our other roommate, Zach, at the time. And so all of a sudden, Shane just starts reading our roommate. His family and stuff started stepping forward. In the middle of him giving Zach messages, demonic stepped in and took over the channeling session and pointed at Zach and said, I have a message for you. And then pointed at me and said, we know who you are. I was like, we're done. We're done. Session's over. But those kind of things I had, when I moved in with my mom, I had woken up with a purple bruise on my, and I'm talking way high up on the thighs, ladies. It was on the inside of my thigh. It was a perfect handprint. I took my hands and tried in every way I could to place my hand over that handprint, thinking I'm debunking it. I must have done this at night, but I could not get my hand to match that. I couldn't even get my hand over that handprint. Another time it grabbed me. That was the last thing that happened, actually, was that it grabbed me by the ankles. I was laying on the bed and I was watching Netflix and I'm just relaxing. I'm wide awake. And it grabbed me by the ankle and tried to yank me off of the bed.
Oh,
nope.
Yeah,
That's
my
terrifying.
first instinct. See, I learned, I put away the fear and I just got mad. So you ever taken your foot and flipped your shoe off? That's what I did. I took my leg and I just I flicked it off my leg as hard as I could. And I mean, with every fiber of my being, it was get the F out of here. And it went poof and it was gone. So, I mean, I've had, I guess the message is really simple. You know, yes, it's scary. And yes, it startles you, but staying calm and controlling your fear is your first step to fighting back.
Right.
I'm going to mute you for a second because I've got something to say about that. So I agree wholeheartedly. And I also, like, you know, when you hear people say things like, oh, I've prepared for magic, that's a common misconception that it's like, oh, I've done my studying, or oh, I've had some hardships. No, there's a different level to this stuff.
Yeah.
There's a different level to supernatural experiences. You know another healer or another witch by how they handle anything that would normally be a crisis for most people.
Right.
All you have to do is look around the room and see who's calm.
Yep.
And that's your witch or healer.
Who functions in chaos? What? Yeah, like who's the one that's like got, you know, like it's just another Tuesday, you know, right? Because
it is.
You know, but like if a bill comes in the mail that I'm not expecting, watch out, I'm gonna lose my shit. But like, you know,
sure.
Yeah,
like, I can't put my vape. That's when I'm losing it, or my phone. But you know, if you've sawed your arm off and it's like spurting blood, I'm gonna be just like I am right now with you, and we'll just get to the hospital. It'll be fine.
Yeah, no, like 100% car crash, bleeding everywhere. I got you. Don't worry.
Gotcha. I can bring you back from death. We're good.
Letter from the IRS. Oh my God. You know, fucking death. I'm having a mental breakdown. It's like that. Like it's like we substitute the normal everyday shit and we go off the walker about that. The most like mundane crap that everyone deals with, that to us is out of control. But like the other stuff is the stuff that we can absolutely, like, you want us on your team when shit goes down. Like that is 100% true. And that's something that we're trained from like childhood on, because it's all of the stuff that happens that is the preparation, is the trauma. Fucking trauma of you know, yeah, that's what it is. And that's what, like Laura said, it's not fun. It's not fun. Like it's not cool either. I mean, I don't know. I mean, it's kind of cool, I guess, a little bit, but like only in the sense that like, you know, you're connected and you know that there's other stuff and that you don't have to be scared about like just ceasing to exist one day. That's the only part that's beneficial, like in that regard. But otherwise, it's a burden because you know shit that other people don't know, and you know it. It's not like you believe it. You know,
not just that, it's something that takes over your whole entire life. I mean, right. It's totally dope that we can get paid for the things that we do, but like, you know, back in the day, the church took care of all of that for us. We wouldn't have to.
Yeah,
because the mundane like is so beyond us. because we've been working in the supernatural for so long. And, you know, like, it's like, I can tell you how to clear a house. I can tell you what your ancestors are saying to me to reveal to you. But if you ask me to like pay all my bills on time, there's going to be
yeah.
That's why I have bill pay. I mean,
Yeah.
thank goodness for the 21st century,
Yes.
because you know what? All would be lost.
Yeah, dude, like the anxiety I have about going out to the shopping or what, is like unreal. But like, you know, like so stupid. But you know, it is what it is. It's a trade-off, I guess, right? But like,
It's a definite trade-off.
yeah, it's not really fair. I'm gonna be honest. Because again, we walk around with the shit that we know that all of the rest of the people say is either fake, crazy, or like whatever, and like so we have to most of the time not talk about it, you know, and that's fine because I don't think everyone should know, anyways, personally. But you know, like I think that it would be dangerous in the wrong hands, obviously, and it can be, and it has been. But like, on the flip side of that, like, you know, it's one of those things where it's a burden because we know shit and we've seen shit that we can't unsee it. Like we can't unsee it. We can't unknow it. And therefore it's a lot, and it causes us to I have an existential crisis on like a weekly basis about the stuff that I see, and it's hard because programmed to not believe it, and then yet it happens, and it's like, okay, well, and then you got proof, like you got videos or like recordings, and it's like I can't like I can't gaslight myself to this extent. I can't, not that delusional where I can like literally just deny my own reality. I used to try all the time, but I gave up.
I think it's just, yeah, no, I gave up. I think that's the thing though. It's like that there's little big hurdles put in our way to break us of the human habits of questioning things like we did, so that we get into the groove of this wavelength, because it is a different wavelength.
It is.
And with that being said, Mom, I'd like you to kind of finish us up with your conclusion of your story, because then after that, guys, we're going to answer some psychic questions and pull some cards for people. And I want to call out Shannon for a minute, because I know exactly what to say about that psychic question. I have to answer this one. Okay, girlfriend, should I date Eric for real or just be friends with Benny's? Girl, be friends with Benny's. Like, I have a strong feeling about this one. Like, he's a nice guy, but like, it's not it. Okay. So thank you, Shannon. Okay, so Mom, give us our conclusion.
In conclusion, I think that in my personal purpose in sharing this story is that this does happen to families. It does happen to what we think is normal people. You know, even ungifted people. You don't have to be gifted to experience this type of thing. It's intensified. But I think that my message is pretty simple, and there is nothing we need to truly fear here, as long as we're walking on the path that we're supposed to be on, you know, that our creators laid out for us, and learning what we need to learn. And obviously, this was a huge part of what I don't know why, but it was a huge part of what I was supposed to know how to do. I've done, and I just, again, as I said, it's that mother title means a lot. And I used to say, when my kids were growing up after I experienced all of this, I used to say, what is there to fear? Because I literally faced the gates of hell with my babies. Is there anything else here that's a boogeyman, that's scary? That no, not anymore. Not anymore. And so, you know, you just stay vigilant, and if you need help, reach out for help.
Absolutely. And you know what, everyone, we're going to open up for questions for Lori too, if you guys have any. Thank you so much, Mom, for coming on and sharing this scary story with us.
Yeah,
And
thank
you
you,
are
Lori.
so brave. And everybody in the chat is telling you thank you for sharing as well. And so
I
we
got
had
Megan's
Shannon.
reading.
Huh?
Got Megan's reading over here.
Oh, excellent. Go for it. Okay, Mom, we're going to mute you, but just hang out with us. Okay.
All right. So Megan, you got the Magician, the Well, the Five of Pentacles, Five of Wands, and then Page of Cups. So it looks like right now, like, you know, I think you're trying to you're trying to create something, manifest something like from your creative well, right? You've got a lot of stuff in there, girl. Seems like a lot of stuff down there that you can pull from. But it looks like, I don't know if you're stressing about money or what, or like if you're having kind of like some internal maybe or external, I'm not sure if it's internal, external, like kind of like arguments or fights with yourself about ways that things are going, or like if it's something going on with you and somebody else about just having some kind of disagreements, like, you know, like annoyances. I don't know. But it looks like right now this stuff's all gonna pass, like whatever that is, like if any of that, like, you know, that's, it's not gonna be like whatever the negative is here, because it's like you got 2 5s, and those are fives are typically not the best. Like, so I mean, I don't know if it's like, feels like maybe just like money or just a disagreement in how things are being done in some way, shape, or form. I don't know. Something about like there's I'm not sure exactly. Let me see. Let me get another card. But like then it says that the next thing is that Page of Cups is next. So that's like this like kind of reinvigorated energy pull from that well that is not drying up. And then the Hermit is here. So it might be time, like it might be, the advice might be to like kind of take a step back from whatever you're doing at the moment. Like, I don't know. And like kind of reassess and like maybe tweak it a little bit, whatever it is that's going on, so that you can be more focused and not have, because it seems like it's annoying, it's more of annoyance than anything serious. Like it's just dumb stuff that could be ironed out. Like, I don't know why I said that, but like there's a difference between you and somebody else, then it's something that can be fixed. But like you need a moment to like kind of really assess what's going on and not let emotions get in the way so much. Like maybe it's triggering or something's triggering. I don't know what's going on with you, but you know, hey, like it looks like it's gonna be fine. So there's that. And like also your creative inspiration that you have is coming from the right place. You're pulling from the right. You're on the right vein. Like you're on the right vein. If that makes sense. And I don't know why I just said that either. That just popped in my head. So no clue what you're talking about. You said general reading, so I don't know. So, anyways, that's what I just got. So you tell me. I have no clue. But that's that. But it looks like everything will be fine. So, you know, at the end of the day, it's just like right now. Don't let bickering with yourself or other people get you caught up. Okay. It'll all work out. Oh yeah, and then the last card is you know, the Eight of Pentacles, where you're like watching the thing you've created, and you're like standing, or Seven of Pentacles. Sorry, 7. So you're like standing there, like, look at my hard work. It's paid off. You know, like I'm there, I'm hoeing that field, hoeing the field, girl, and like, you know, and now you got your like crops coming in. So the hard work pays off. The annoyances are worth it. The bickering, fighting is worth it right now. It's just take a step back, get a different perspective, calm down.
You've tilled your soil, time to kind of rest and let it do its job.
Yep. Whatever the hell that means. So. Yeah. So there you go.
So this one is the one I'm going to take. Okay. So Anton, I'd like to ask you, do you suffer from depression or have on and off your whole life? Because I have a feeling that you have. And also I feel like, you don't have any attachments right now. But you should definitely strengthen your practice of protecting yourself. I would gain more knowledge about that because I do feel like you have some weak spots that need tending to. Maybe some inner child work as well, just to kind of strengthen and fortify your heart chakra. And I'm also being told your sacral chakra needs some work as well. So that would be places to think about. Have you had a creative block recently? That could be related as well. Oh, yes. Okay. 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 Yes, I know exactly. Okay. That makes sense now, what you just explained to me in the chat. I'm not going to put it up because I'm respecting your privacy, but that does sound like energetic issues that you do need to learn how to calibrate. Just because you have something that is diagnosed doesn't mean you can't take alternative routes to treat the symptoms. And you can actually see a difference, I promise. But I definitely don't see anything malevolent around you at this time. And so, Anna, your turn, because I know this person, so I can't do it. Okay, so
is that Megan's?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I think the last name is familiar, so
right.
Okay. Hi, Pat. How's it going? I feel like I look like the crow right now. Ah, I do. That's what it is. Oh, that's where I got the makeup idea from. I think I channeled like Brandon Lee. Okay, so
Brandon Lee, hilarious.
R.I.P. bro. Hey, the veil's thin. Maybe almost that one, right?
I love that feather collar. It's cool.
Right. It's so cool. Yeah, this crown hurts my head though a little bit. Happy.
Yeah, this is like pokey.
Yeah, it's sitting right in one of those knots on my head somewhere, so see.
I feel like a little kid. My mom did my hair really super tight, and I'm like, Yeah,
okay, let's see. So for Scott, let's see what's going on. The owner, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, okay, well, I see that is really like your drive. That I'm going to say right now, this is cheese balls, but I admire that, Scott, because I believe that that's true what you're saying, that your family, it matters to you about supporting your family, being there for them, because I got the leverage right off the bat. And then again, the Five of Pentacles came back up again, so the money problem, and the money is a factor. So now I know that my reading for her was right. So yeah, like, okay, so yeah. Right, so that's why you're asking that question. We already know that, but you said it. My cards just confirmed that that's the case. So see what's going on with it. That one was weird. Okay, so so like right now there's an energy of you guys kind of really holding on to things, like not like trying to be frugal and like not be a frivolous, right? So that kind of mindset, I get it 100%, but at the same time it also attracts lack. So it's like it's really hard. It's such a hard thing when it's money, so hard that you have to know even when you don't know. You have to delude yourself that that shit's coming back. That's coming back, because if you hold on to it with this, like, oh my God, like we're going to cut back on all this stuff because we got to save money. Like, yeah, I mean, that makes sense, right? But at the same time, somehow it also causes more of the problem. And it's such a convoluted way that it works, but it does work that way. So
my advice would be like
the same card again. You got the same card. Same card. Just came out again. And then also, so like if you're working right now, like if you are whatever you've been doing, or oh my God, are you serious? The Page of Cups just came out again too. What the fuck? So y'all get the same reading. This is the Six of Swords. This is like whatever wasn't working before, it's time to walk away from that thing. So if this is if your idea about doing truck driving or whatever is new and like it's not the thing you have been doing, like starting something new would be the way to go, because what you've been experiencing is this rocky, choppy water on a boat that's sinking. So like and you can only keep putting Flex Seal on it so long, before that shit gonna just break. So like, you know what I mean? Like it's time to like, the duct tape ain't cutting it. Like it's time to like cut out and like go a different route is what I'm seeing. So your question is asking about, should you do this thing? Then the answer would be yes, because what you've been doing is not in alignment with what your goals are anymore. Right. So, and then you got Wheel of Fortune. So you got to turn that wheel in your favor. And like the way you do that is by taking the initiative to branch out of your comfort zone and what you've been doing. Yes. So the answer is yes, you should do it. Okay. Like 100%. So hope that helps you guys.
Yeah. And also acting as if it already has happened really brings something into your life, especially if you make a little bit of room in your life for that thing. It will rush in. That's why, shut up.
The Hermit just came out also. It's the same fucking cards. All of them are the same that Megan got. I shuffled them. I love it. Them. So Yeah, dude, you guys, I can't make that happen. Like that shit just happened. So 100%. So you're working for somebody else right now. Like if you're working for somebody else, it's time to go on your own way, because it's like we do that. Okay, this is gonna be controversial. Don't like hate me, everybody. Like we do that shit when we're younger. We work for other people when we're younger. When we're older, it's time for us to take the bull by the reins and like become our own
the
boss,
leader.
because we are literally making other people rich off of our hard work. So it's like time to get into the mindset of like, now you're gonna make other people make you rich. Yeah, serious. Like it's time for you to like step into that role that you've been priming yourself for this whole time anyways. So
absolutely. I agree wholeheartedly with that one. And it is scary to take the leap, Scotty, but you know what? That fear that we feel before we take a leap is usually the indicator that we need to do, because we're feeling that surge that's telling you, okay, this is the thing. And it's that feeling that we get that is part of being alive, that's part of embodying.
It's that risk reward ratio, right? It's that rate, that golden ratio. It's like you said, you're scared. I just saw your comment say it's scary to make the leap. Yeah, it is. It's scary, but like there's no reward to stay stagnant, right? Like there isn't. You're living it right now. So if it's what you're doing currently right now is not enough, the alternative is to get another job on top of the one you already have. That don't make sense. What about your kids and stuff and your wife, right? Like that just, so it's like, and also I think you need to go back in time and look back historically at the things you have done successfully and remind yourself that you're badass and you can do it, because we forget, we get like stuck in a rut, and we're doing all this stuff for so long that we forget when we were more adventurous and more like risk taking. And we need to remind ourselves sometimes, venerate our experience, and like, honor the fact that we are capable individuals and that we have no evidence to think we're going to fail. So why are we telling ourselves that, right? Like, so, like, hey, pat yourself on the back for what you've already done, and like remind yourself that you're a badass, you can do it. You got to support a
wife. And I agree with Shannon here too. Scotty would be a natural leader. Absolutely. I agree wholeheartedly. That is totally his personality. And it would be great. And Shannon is actually, we're going to have Shannon on later on in the year. She is a animal medium.
Oh, cool.
So yes, and I know I look like Vixen Minnie Mouse Shannon, but it's actually horns. Okay, so I was gonna ask this question right here. So Firewoman 5, hello. She says, hey ladies, some cards. Last time I got cards that said I was stagnant, so I moved forward with Instagram and TikTok plus writing my book. Any more insight? Thank you, and both of you are gorgeous. Thank you, darling. Yeah.
Yep.
Anna, you want to start?
So there's this idea like of keeping your head held high, like for some reason, I don't know why, but there's a vibe of like needing to stay above the fray. I don't know exactly what that means, but like don't let people drag you down to a level that you won't be proud of being at. Like, so I don't know what that means, but there's also some kind of like new possible like person interest coming in, or it has been coming in, or I don't know, but there's some new beginning, it looks like, possible here as well. So I mean, if you're doing the work for yourself right now, what?
He's on the peripheral. I agree with you on that. Oh, I don't know. Yes, I do. I'm psychic. Okay, so yes, there's somebody coming in, and he's on the peripheral, and I've been seeing him for a while for her. I don't know when he's coming in for good, but it feels like it's going to be about business.
Yeah, because it's like there's this 8 of Cups energy too. Like that's where she's at. I feel like you're at that 8 of Cups, like where you just like, dude, I keep trying and then nothing's working, and then like like it's almost like relenting that it's not gonna work out like ever. So I might as well get some cats. No, that's not the attitude to have. Yeah, like, but and also there's this defensiveness that occurs too with people. I think that you're really quick to push people away. The tiniest like sign of any kind of shenanigans, whatever. But I caution that like maybe sometimes that we might be a little overzealous with that. Like because of our past histories. Like we might possibly, maybe a little bit
push people
jump the gun
away.
sometimes, like about that, or maybe they're just
Yeah.
there's a possibility that despite the trauma that we've been through and the people that have constantly shown us that they're shit, right, and they're awful, that maybe not everybody's like that. You know, I mean, we can hope, right? And that maybe the person saying that thing to you isn't just doing it for manipulation, but they actually mean it. Like, I know that's hard, but I kind of feel like,
That's a
you
hard
know,
one. I think a lot of us who have been in those shoes, especially, you know, we're like, okay, what's your angle?
right. What do you want from
are
me?
you trying to get? Yeah.
Trying to butter me up over here, tell me all the stuff I wanted to hear all the time, but like, like it's I'm suspect immediately, always. It's like, oh, you said that? What do you want? Like my demeanor changes immediately. Like, I don't believe you. You know, like immediate, like, and that's bad. But when we do that, we're letting the freaking trauma win. We're letting the people that traumatize us win. And you know, there's also the risk of being a fool constantly. But you know, I'd rather be a fool than let those people win. I'm sorry, I just would. Like, so
I'd rather be a fool than let my heart be hardened. You know.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. So that's the advice here is like you're doing the work on yourself. You're doing all the stuff for yourself. This is when you're gonna meet the person because you've taken the focus off of the external and focused it, put it on the internal, and that's when we start to get the things that we want when we start putting ourselves first. It sounds counterintuitive, but it's not. It's actually exactly what is supposed to happen. So, you know, just be on the lookout. This person's gonna be around. They're gonna make you creeped out a little bit. I think they're gonna make you go, what do you want? You know, like that. I don't know. You know, so that's my. I mean,
I love
it looks
it.
like you're gonna have some fun though.
Yeah. I mean, it does look like she's gonna have some fun if she lets it in for sure.
Yeah, definitely. If anything.
And there's another question. Okay, so thank you, Firewoman 5. We appreciate you. Let's look at our newest one. Thank you for taking my question. I am meeting Brian tomorrow for the first time after 2 months of no contact. I need your advice, guidance on what kind of stand I should take. Will things be okay? Okay, so what, Anna?
No contact?
There was no contact for 2 months. That doesn't sit well with me. Jordana, could you like what was the circumstance under your no contact? Because I really feel like it's convoluted. I really feel like there's no reason at all for him to have done this.
Who initiated seeing each other tomorrow or whenever you're seeing each other? Yeah. Like,
because this is not sitting well with me, dear.
I need more information. I need to know. I got but I got could go either way, so it's like kind of hard. Like,
I've got ancestors in my ear telling you shouldn't even be doing this and that you should have some self-respect.
Hanged man.
I got somebody's grandma or great grandma in my ear right now. So, Jordana, if you can give us a little bit of information. What was his reasoning for the no contact? Because your ancestors are just so protective of you in this situation. Anna, are you pulling any cards?
Yeah, she said just a second. No, I'm just I have cards in front of me. I just don't. They could be it depends. Like there are cards that are you'll know when I tell you what they are. It's either one or the other. So I don't want to give her the wrong advice. You know? I don't want to say the wrong thing. So I just need to know like if it's because it seems like if it's like it's him that initiated this reconnection. It feels like then it would be like, oh, he's excited about it because it's like, you know, like, but I don't know. We have been on off for a couple of years. He is healing from loss of his late wife. Okay. So the no contact is for what, his healing or because y'all had a fight and like he doesn't, you know, I guess that's like, because like we don't, no contact. When you say no contact, let me just say, it reminds me immediately of narcissism. That's why, like, because when we say no contact, that's what that term is.
And difficult to open up. See, to me, those are all red flags. These are all red flags.
How long ago did his wife die? You know?
Yeah, and also I'm gonna just like tell you something, and this is a channel from the other side, but this is also so true. Um, if a man wants you, he'll come and get you.
Right.
Seriously. You don't have
That's
to
right.
question it. You don't
Yeah.
have to say, "Oh, maybe he's this way or maybe he's
No.
that way."
So,
No.
5 years ago, she died. 5
Man
years ago.
wants something, he goes and gets it.
5 years.
Period.
So it's been 5 years since she died.
Yeah.
Now that there's no timeline for people to, heal, but if they're already engaging in activities with another female, then that would, indicate that they are not that broken up, over it so much that it's more of an excuse, it feels like, and that's look, this is a card I got. I got 7 of Swords.
I feel like she's
Like
being
stealing,
strung along.
like stealing is just coming to get. You deserve, you deserve someone that's gonna be there for you and not ghost you for like some, I don't know, months.
I feel like she's one of those people that he strings along.
Mhm.
You know what? Just in case I need you, I'm gonna keep you here.
Mhm. Right.
Just in case. But that may never come. And are you going to make yourself an option for somebody when you are supposed to be the choice?
Right.
I know you're
You
so emotionally involved, but let's talk about it this way, Jordana, okay? Because a lot of times when we're involved with other people, okay, what we're seeing is God's love for them or source's love for them,
or how they
especially
are at that level.
right. Like it's like you're seeing source's love for them in other. You're not you're not seeing them accurately. And so think about it in that respect. Like, am I looking at this person accurately as who they are in this human body right now?
Right.
Or am
Yeah.
I just looking at their soul? Because they're still in a human body acting out a role that they have contracted to act out. And you are part of that.
Right.
And as part of that, you're playing the part of the person learning the lesson.
Yeah. Yeah. And it can be helpful, and it sounds silly, but it can be helpful to just make a list, pros and cons, like put it in black and white so that you see it with your eyes. You're not just thinking about it, you see it on paper, like what like make a list of like the ideal relationship you'd have, right? Like what that would entail, like the activities, the feelings that you get, and then compare it to what and write it out and be honest with yourself about it and then see how that matches up. If it doesn't match up at all, it's like we sell ourselves short a lot of the time. I don't know why we do this, but we do. We sell ourselves short and we act like we deserve this crappy treatment. We don't. No one deserves that.
Do not
I'm
run
no
from
longer
yourself.
accepting. I will no longer accept potential as payment.
Mm-mm.
I will no
Potential
longer.
isn't real.
Nope. Right. You can't cash a check on potential. It's you can't and I don't also take promises as payment or anything. It's like you be
No.
about it. Stop talking about it. Do it. Put your
Be
money where your
about
mouth
it.
is. If we're adults, I mean, that mythical thing called an adult that doesn't really exist. That thing where we're responsible and emotionally mature. Okay, let's pretend for a second that happens in real life. We should be able to, get what our needs met without having to nag or beg or like repeat ourselves over and over again. And we should not be the one carrying all the weight ever, or the majority of it. It should be back and forth. It's never 50-50, but it should be. If you looked at over time, it would be 50-50, right? So if you're not getting that, be wary. What's he been doing for 2 months? What's he been at?
Yeah, it didn't work. I can tell you what he's been doing for 2 months. It didn't work out with whoever he wanted to explore that with. It turned out that he didn't get the things that he wanted. So now he's going to use her as a backup plan.
Yeah, King of Cups is his card. So this is that guy that
I bet you he's a Scorpio.
That's a Scorpio card. We're in Scorpio season though.
We are in Scorpio season.
Never again. Never again.
Never again, Anna.
Never again. Never. Never.
I know it's hard
sorry,
to
girl.
hear,
Yeah,
Jordana,
dude.
but you know what? We've been there,
He's
girl.
a Scorpio. He's a fucking Scorpio.
Yes. See, I knew it. I
Yes.
called it. King
Dude.
of Cups, of course.
Always. Damn. Yeah. So, like, I got mad experience with that shit. Let me tell you how it works out. It works out with houses on fire, fucking people homeless, and like, yeah, bad shit, dude. Like, it's not good, and they're like full of crap. I mean, not all of them, I'm sure. Yeah, I don't know. Actually, I don't know. They're no, they're wicked. They're wicked. They can be wicked, and if you see that, then you know if you've seen any inkling of it, you know it's there 1,000 times under the surface, like more so. So be wary, and
Yeah.
no, I trust me when I say it goes away. The feeling of pain of them goes away. I finally got over it. Thank God.
You know what?
took a
And
while.
also, here's a good exercise, Jordana, to use too. And I want you to think about this one, okay? Are you more looking for someone to recognize what a good lover you are and partner? Or are you looking to have that show up and treat you the way you want to be treated? Because let's think about that for a second. Because sometimes these lessons come when we're not ready to open up to the very real possibility of a material relationship. And so I'm not saying with this guy, I'm just saying beyond this guy. I want you to think about where you sit with all of that, because sometimes when we haven't met the person yet, it's because we're like struggling to prove what a good partner we are, what a good lover we are, how awesome it is to be with us, because it's more about proving self than actually having that reciprocal back and forth. So it's something to really take inventory of and maybe journal as well. And I was actually guilty of that. I used to do that, where it was more recognize me as a good partner more than it was me actually loving that person and their values and the things that, they brought to the table. I could overlook a lot of things as long as we were playing that game.
Because that's like seeking external validation from another person. That's what that is. That's right. A thing that we are not sure of our own worth and value, because it's probably somebody put in our head that we're not worth it, like worth love or whatever. And like then we seek it out in other people that we will compromise and we'll put up with shit that we would not normally put up with. Right, that is true. But like, this is the kind of, but if you're with the Scorpio recently, I'm gonna tell you right now, that's the kind that will break that. That situation will break that for you. Like it'll force you into
Scorpio, any kind of Scorpio placement holds death codes.
Yeah.
And we'll have to talk about that on another episode.
Yeah.
But it's death rebirth medicine that they hold. And so it definitely is a thing. So thank you, Jordana, and we appreciate you. And that's our answer for that. We have one more question here. Okay, my dad is moving within a few weeks. Will his presence interfere with my spiritual growth? How do I open his mind to the reality I am living? Okay, Michelle, I'm going to answer this one because I actually live with my dad. I just recently actually moved in, and I was raised on one side, my mom was Catholic. On the other side, my dad was Southern Baptist. So I spent most of my week in church, whether it was at vacation Bible school, or it was Sunday school, or it was catechism, or it was mass, or it was time in the sanctuary, or it was Awana, you name it, I was there doing it. And my new reality after my spiritual awakening is something that me and my dad have a sense of humor about, because he cannot wrap his mind around all of the things that I do. And that's okay. He doesn't have to. Instead, what he does is we live with it, harmoniously. I have my altars at his house. He knows I have it. He makes jokes. You know, like this outfit he said I got from the broom factory or something. Like he makes jokes all the time, witch jokes. It's funny, it's cute, dad jokes. But like we found a happy medium to just be like, okay, this is what I do, dad. And you don't have to understand it. And that's okay. Just love me. I'm your kid. And he's like, okay, I love you. You're cuckoo, but so am I. So that's fine. Whatever. So that's where we kind of land with it. And hopefully you and your parent can have just as much of a positive encounter with it. I think it's not as much us making them understand as much as it is about understanding how to live in harmony with each other.
Yeah. And also it's your house. There's that. So like I would just say on the practical side of things, like it's your house, you're an adult, right? So it's like, you know, he doesn't have to agree with you, but he does need to respect your space. Right?
Yeah.
That's it. You know, I mean it can be as simple as that too. Just, you know, you don't have to agree to that, but you know, you're not gonna tell me what to do and you're not gonna, you know, like I wouldn't do it to you, so don't do it to me. Like just respect, you know. That's all.
Absolutely.
So I wouldn't worry about it too much. I think you're maybe you know, don't get in your head about it too much. It's this is your life. You're living it for you, you know, and like you're entitled to your practices. We live in America where you freedom of religion after all, you know. So that's one I mean, I don't know, maybe you don't actually. Sorry, I take that back. But like you know,
yeah, we are international here, Anna.
yeah, sorry. But I'm saying like, you know, as an adult, like you do have to have boundaries. Like our parents had boundaries with us when we were growing up, and now it also goes both ways now that we're adults, right? So
Absolutely.
yeah.
Absolutely. I agree with that 1000%.
Yeah.
And I think we're going to close up since we're at the 2-hour mark.
Yes. Oh my God. Yeah.
Yeah, I want to thank everybody that joined us, and I want to thank Lori for joining us and sharing such a scary experience with us, but also educating us on, you know, what can happen in a haunting. So thank you, Lori, so much for being here.
Oh, you're so
Thanks. It was
welcome.
nice to
I
finally
really
meet you, Lori, by the
enjoyed
way. Hey, you know, outside of like posts on Facebook. So
it.
yeah. So yeah. So thanks guys. And have a happy and safe Halloween or Samhain. And you know, like remember remember that we're all just winging it here, right? Like that's what we're doing. So just do your best, be good people, and like don't be dicks. That's it. Be nice, and do some veneration for your ancestors on the 31st.
Oh, yes, or the first, either one, make an altar for your ancestors. It's ancestor loving and offering season. So let's celebrate those ancestors, and we'll be sharing ours on our socials for sure.
Yeah.
And I'll be attending actually, I do have an announcement. I'll be attending a ritual for Samhain at Unitarian Universal Church in Fresno. We will be starting rituals there every Sabbath, and I will be taking on some of the priestess duties there next year. So if you're in the Fresno area, Fresno, California, and you want to come join us for Samhain, we will be at UUC on the 1st of November.
Awesome. That's so awesome. Awesome.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Thanks so much. We love y'all.
Yes.
And
See you all later.